What is going on, 4for4 community? Appreciate everyone for tuning in to another Start Sit stream. And tonight we're going to be answering all of your toughest start sits heading into week 3 fantasy football. I hope you guys are all 2-0. I hope you guys are all 2-0. But if you're 1-1, if you're 0-2, there's still plenty of season ahead of us to still be able to get into the playoffs. And like we said, we just need you to have a chance. We just need a chance to be able to get a championship. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. But for those of you kind of tuning in over on X, if you guys have not already checked out the new 4for4 fantasy football YouTube channel, definitely come over and check this out. Me, Addison, and John Paulson are posting videos almost every day. We're doing live streams. We're answering your start sit questions. Definitely want to come over here if you have some trade advice, if you need some start sit, if you want to know who you should be adding on waivers at the beginning of the week, who you should be stashing, who you should be trading for, all of those good jazz. Make sure you come over, check us out at the 4for4 Fantasy Football YouTube channel. And if you are on the YouTube channel, absolutely appreciate you guys for tuning in right now. So, like I said, we're going to be diving into these questions. And like I said, we're pumped, absolutely pumped to answer your questions. We do have subscriber mode turned on over here on the YouTube channel because we want to continue to grow this community as we're approaching 2,000 subscribers on the channel. Now, Brendan comes in here first. He says, need you this week, Caleb. I'm 1-1 in the money league, full PPR, Tyreek, Debo, or Drake London. Now, this is great question, Brendan. So really for me, I'm still going to be going with Mr. Drizzy Drake. And the main reason I'm going to continue to go with Drizzy Drake here is just mainly has to do, oh, we're lagging a little bit here. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. We're back. Is mainly just has to do with the target share that Drizzy Drake continues to get. When we're specifically looking at him last week, it was not good. The game script versus Minnesota was not good at all, Brendan. But we still have to look at the fact that in week 1 versus Tampa, he did have 15 targets. And so through 2 games, he does have 19 targets, which is huge. Now, Tyreek Hill, this Dolphins offense needs to get things turned around real quick. Mike McDaniel's definitely on the hot seat if they continue to perform like this. And so for me, I want to be leaning into Drake London here this week. I'm going to continue to lean into Drake London. I think last week was a fluke. Going up against Carolina, we've seen how bad this Carolina Panthers defense has been. Brendan, give me some Drizzy Drake London this week. Appreciate you, man. C says, hi, Caleb. I hope all is well. How's the new baby? Oh, my gosh. I had a new kid on September 5th. So now we are 12 days in, and he's doing well. He's growing a ton. He came 2 weeks early. I joked that he couldn't miss week 1 of the fantasy football season. And so he's doing really good. He's totally growing real quick. And I'm lacking sleep, but we're hanging in there. So I appreciate you asking. And then C comes in and says, ETN, Tyreek Hill, or Odunze in the flex in a full standard league. Has Rome Odunze been the biggest kind of, I would say, breakout, or I guess the best value that you had in drafts so far this season? I think you could argue that he is. In standard, though, see, I think you're going to have to go with Travis Etienne here. I do have him in my standard rankings as my RB17 this week. Tyreek Hill's a little bit lower in standard. I have Tyreek Hill right now, right around my wide receiver 23. And then Romo Dunze is sliding in standard as my wide receiver 18. I just lean the running back in standard when we're discussing Odunze versus ETN, really for me there, C. So give me some ETN. But I do think Rome Odunze, like if we're talking like rest of season rankings, we are looking at Odunze being an absolute breakout candidate and absolutely continuing further down the line. C comes in again. He said standard ETN or Breece Hall this week. Okay, so there's no Justin Fields. We saw Tyrod Taylor come into the game for the Jets and look absolutely electric. Like in the sense that Garrett Wilson was getting involved. The offense was just moving a little bit better. I think it's kind of up for debate on who you want here. Like I said, Travis Etienne is sliding in as my RB18. I have Breece Hall as my RB15. So for me, you kind of can lean whichever way you want to lean here. See, I personally have a ton of Travis Etienne, so I feel like I'm always a little bit bullish. Going up against Houston's a good matchup. Tampa Bay for Breece Hall. I think in my heart of hearts, see, I'm probably going to go against my own rankings, and I'm probably going to go readjust this. I'm probably going to bump up Travis Etienne after I continue to talk myself into it, but I'm going to go Travis Etienne over Breece Hall there, see. And then you said standard, JCM, Pollard, or Henderson. I don't think Henderson were able to start any Henderson. So the real question is Pollard versus JCM. And I think I need to see it for JCM before I fully put him in there. I understand it has been nothing, but there has been zero efficiency coming from Tony Pollard in that Tennessee Titans offense. But see, I would go with Pollard over Henderson and JCM there. Hope that helps you as well. Okay. Man, see, just hammering out all these questions first and early. Like I said, guys, we're going through however they come in. And so C just hammered out a bunch of questions pre-stream. Javonte, ETN, Tyreek Killer, Dudze, and Flex. Ooh, where do I have Javonte this week? Yeah, I do have I still have Travis Etienne ahead of Javonte. I go Travis Etienne there. But it's close between Travis Etienne and Javonte. Like I said, see, if you got so many leagues, you might want to diversify a little bit because if Travis Etienne has a bad day, but I do have Travis Etienne ranked ahead of Javonte this week. Adam, appreciate you tuning in. You said Genty for Henry. I could also do Genty and JMO for Puka. So Adam, I like both of these trades for you. I have Henry higher rest of the season. But I think if depending on your running back depth, Adam, if you could get into a Puka Nacua rest of the season, I'm assuming this is going to be like a full PPR. I feel like you have to do it. Specifically when we're talking like where does Puka Nacua kind of slide in like rest of season for me? Puka Nacua is right there in the top 7, which is kind of where you drafted him. But so he hasn't necessarily lost a ton of value, but he also he's gained quite a bit. And so I think there's still a way, of course, like some guys that are ahead of Puka right now in my rest season rankings is like a Chris McCaffrey. I did bump Malik Neighbors up ahead of Puka Nacua. I know that might be controversial. You got the Bijan, the Jameer Gibbs, CD. I still have Chase even with the injury. But I think we could be looking at this next week, Adam, and we're talking about Puka Nacua being a top 3 player rest of season just based on, the Joe Burrow injury pushing Jamar Chase down. I would personally lean the Genty and JMO for Puka side, but if you can't do that, Adam, then I would be cool to go do the Henry and trade away Genty for Henry. Thank you for being here, Adam. Appreciate you. Matt, appreciate you, Matt. You said, who would you recommend benching out of these players? PPR, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, Jawan Jennings, Ridley, or DJ Moore? Now, Matt, you said you're 0-2 and it's looking bad. Well, dude, there's still some time to kind of bounce back to get things going. Now, this is what I want to say here. I'm assuming you didn't put this. I'm double checking. You said you just got out of the Matt. I've got to trade him, dude. I love some Matt, dude. He's awesome. For me, I'm assuming this is full PPR, Matt. So let's just assume that as I'm kind of going into this. So there's the reports this week that there's a chance that Brock Purdy plays this week. Now, is that possible? Potentially. But for me, I think you got to – I understand this. It doesn't feel good, but I feel like you got to go DJ Moore. He's going to be the number 1 here. I have him sliding as a top 30 wide receiver this week. I think the next player you got to go with is Calvin Ridley. I have him inside my top 25. So I would go Calvin Ridley, and then I would go DJ Moore. And so then it's between Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt and between Jawan Jennings. Like I said, this is maybe not the answer that you want to hear like at this current moment, but not knowing what's happening specifically with Brock Purdy is kind of making this decision. I know Mac Jones was throwing it all over the yard. I'm trying to figure out which way I want to lean here this week with you. Because I'm still hesitant on Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. I just think he's going to get more of the early down workload that we didn't see last week because Austin Eckler had it. My rankings are going to say to go with Jennings, but it's close. It is really close. I would go with Jennings. So I would go with all 3 wide receivers, and then I would bench Ja'Cory Krosky and Merritt. Matt, we'll wait a week. Assuming this is you did say it's PPR. So I'd go with the wide receivers, Matt. Like I said, I had to dive into that a little bit deeper than I wanted to because I wanted to make sure I got it for you. Adam said, also start 2. JMO, Genty, Alec, and Cam Scatterboo. Oh, man. You got these high performers, and then you got these guys that were like not feeling great about in the sense of Genty, in the sense of JMO. but I'm probably not going to be overreacting a ton. I think I'm still sliding Genty in this week. I understand I pushed him down my rankings just a little bit. He's my RB 14 this week as they're going up against Washington. But so I would start Genty for sure. And then I think I'm still rolling out Jameson Williams. We saw Jared Goff last week absolutely throw the tutties. It looked, I know they were doing it to get on their old offensive coordinator a little bit. And also the fact that he had that 44-yard touchdown, incredible. I know two targets for 108 yards and a touchdown. It feels like not sustainable, but I will say in this offense between Sam Laporta, between Amon-Ra St. Brown, between Jameson Williams, even Jahmyr Gibbs on the backfield, I mean, that's going to be the consolidated targets, which it could not go his way this week, Adam, for sure. But for me, I want to go with JMO, and I will go with Genty. As much as I do love the fact that you have Cam Scatterboo, as much as I love that you have our boy over there at the Tennessee Titans. Jers said, good evening, everyone. Appreciate you, Jers. Said, Caleb, how we feeling, brother? Hey, we're doing good. We're doing good. I'm 1-1 in most of my leagues right now. I have a few where I'm 2-0. So we're trying to bounce back. We're trying to bounce back as well with some of you guys. Jers says, chat, how's everyone feeling tonight? We love it, Jers. Thanks for getting everybody involved. And like I said, guys, if you guys couldn't mind already, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. If you're over here on the YouTube, hit the like button as we're just continuing to kind of grow the stream. So CMass, appreciate you. You said which two would you play? Keon Coleman, Matt Golden, Troy Franklin, Travis Hunter. Ooh, CMass, you're doing me dirty here. Giving me Troy Franklin, who has shown promise, who has shown himself to continue to grow, who wants to be more a part of this offense. That's great. We got Matthew Golden, who continues to kind of hopefully be the person that we want to be the alpha for the Green Bay Packers. We haven't necessarily seen that yet. Troy Franklin has been, last week showed everything that we wanted from a wide receiver that especially was like probably the number one waiver wire target this week. And then you add in Travis Hunter, who played a lot. What do we want to say? Like a lot more defensive snaps than offensive this last week. And so that to me was kind of alarming. And so I think as we kind of look at this week, we just kind of have to put in perspective who you're going to want here. And for me, if I had to choose, am I going back to the Travis Hunter well? I think that's the initial question that you have to ask. In my current rankings for the week, we have Travis Hunter sliding in all the way down as wide receiver 39. So not like the best play. I do have Keon Coleman sliding in as wide receiver 46. If we look at Matthew Golden, good old Golden boy, we have Matthew Golden sliding in as a wide receiver 53. And then good old Troy Franklin sliding in as wide receiver 52. So if I had to choose, I would probably still go with Keon Coleman and Travis Hunter. I don't feel comfortable with it, CMass. And I want you to know that all these guys are kind of in the same range, the same territory as wide receiver 3-4s with upside. Adam said, if I wanted to trade away A.J. Brown, who could I upgrade to? Wide receiver suggestions. Well, I will say this, Adam. At this current moment, not a lot of people are probably looking to trade for A.J. Brown. I'm hoping that there's a better game script for him this week. I still have him as my wide receiver 12 rest of the season. So, but if you're like, who could I trade him for? I mean, could you flip him into a JSN? Probably not. Nico Collins, probably not. Drake London, probably not. Honestly, so you're looking at either going up to a guy that I have right above him, like a Brian Thomas Jr., who's also struggled at him, or going down into like the Ladd McConkey, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams range, which at that point I'm probably just holding A.J. Brown. So personally for me, I think the only, like, if you can't get some crazy deal done, Adam, like if you're not playing with super sharp people in your league, if you're playing with sharps, I would tell you that Brian Thomas Jr. is probably the only guy. And I prefer Brian Thomas Jr. over A.J. Brown, but I wouldn't be trading down into like a Ladd McConkey, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Ted McMillan, Marvin Harris Jr., T. Higgins type range. Like I'd just be holding AJ Brown at that point. So I would say if you can get, like I said, into a Brian Thomas Jr., that's what I would do. But both are clearly struggling right now. First question from the X, we got good old Anderson. So a 12-team PPR, trade Abuka for Judkins. Ooh. I will say this, Anderson. I would personally lean with keeping Emeka Abuka unless you're super, super loaded at wide receiver right now and you're super desperate for running back. So I would lean on the side of keeping Emeka Abuka there, Anderson. Like I said, I don't know what your current settings are, but we'll kind of continue to go from there. Next we got is Ben said, who are you starting, Jared Goff or Jake Browning? You have Montgomery though. Well, we just saw Jared Goff absolutely fleece this last week. We saw Browning. I think Browning, like I said, I think he's a top 20 quarterback this week. Not a terrible matchup, not a great matchup versus Minnesota. We saw Minnesota absolutely lock down Michael Penix. Now, Jake Browning, he can be mobile, maybe a little bit more mobile than Joe Burrow. But if I were you, I would just be going with Jared Goff versus Baltimore. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. So I do lean with Jared Goff there. Ben, appreciate you tuning in. And I'm realizing, guys, that the reason I'm having lagging issues is because I joined from Chrome and I did Firefox last week, and that's why it was so good last week. So I apologize, guys. Still, it was the baby. I'm blaming the baby. I'm blaming the baby there. So I appreciate you guys dealing with a little bit of the lag. Eddie said, would you flex JCM, Abuka, Sutton, Ramondre, or Pickens in 0.5 PPR? Eddie, so we got to monitor this Emeka Abuka injury, because I know they were not only did they have to wrap the hip during the game, but then he also he's kind of been on the injury report. I'm sure he's going to play. I mean, you guys see the sweatshirt I'm wearing. This dude's an absolute tank when it comes to his health. I have him right now as my wide receiver 21. Now, when it comes to where I have Cortland Sutton, I have Cortland Sutton a little bit farther down, wide receiver 26. So I would lean Emeka over George Pickens and Sutton for sure. We saw Ramondre have a crazy game. I feel like we just don't know what these splits are going to look like for the New England Patriots week in and week out. And as much as I don't think he can start Trayvon Henderson this week. So personally for me, I'm probably going to be starting Emeka Abuka in 0.5 PPR. Eddie, that's the way that I would lean there. Then we got Dub Nation. He said, I need one wide receiver and one flex. Keenan Allen, Ricky Pearsall, Ted McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Ken Walker, PPR. Also, which quarterback should I start, Browning or Mac Jones? Dub. So start off with the quarterback. I would go with Mac Jones. That's assuming that Brock Purdy's not going to play this week. I would just monitor that. That decision might be made for you. Now, when it comes to the one wide receiver and one flex, I would go. I mean, the decision really comes down to Ted McMillan, Ricky Pearsall, and Ken Walker. I would flex Ken Walker. So then it comes down to between Ted McMillan and Ricky Pearsall this week. And I would personally be going with good old Teteroa McMillan. I know it doesn't like to be called Ted, but I just think there's going to be a little bit more volume versus the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to be getting after it. I don't think there's going to be a ton of holes for good old Mr. Chuba Hubbard. And so I just assume we're going to see a little bit more volume in the passing game. And good old Ricky, we've seen some really great stuff. Like I think when Brock Purdy comes back, if he comes back this week, he could be pretty good. But personally for me, I would go Mac Jones. Then I would go with Ted McMillan and Ken Walker there, Dub Nason. Ben said, also, if you have to sit one of these guys, who are you sitting? Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Ricky Pearsall, Montgomery, or T. Higgins, non-PPR. If I had to sit one of those in non-PPR, it would be Ricky Pearsall. Would be my answer there, Ben. C said standard, Breece Hall, Dylan Sampson, or Juwan Jennings in the flex. C, it's going to be Breece Hall there, my guy. And you guys are flowing in the questions. So I appreciate you guys so much for hanging out with me on your Wednesday night. Armin said, drop Woody Marks for Kyle Mongai due to Swift News performance. Any thoughts? I mean, I think it's been pretty clear that the Chicago Bears have wanted to get Kyle Mongai more involved. Now, do I think I would have dropped? I mean, both these guys are kind of in the same range for me rest of the season. The issue that I have is we saw Woody Marks be kind of explosive for the Texans in that Monday night game. I don't want to say like explosive, but like clearly has the pass catching ability to provide some sort of fantasy football value. Whereas I understand Kyle's definitely going up the board after those comments, and after what we're seeing with with Ben Johnson saying that he wants to get Kyle more carries. But even though it was a negative game script, he did still have 7 carries. So I do think they're going to continue to want to get him more involved. So I think that's fine. But like I said, I think there's potentially a shot that Nick Chubb is not the answer for the Houston Texans, and that they do lean on Woody Marks, because Woody Marks is the rookie. He's a little bit more explosive. I understand Nick Chubb had that touchdown, but goodness, it looked like me running out there. And I'm not fast. Like, I put on about 20 pounds during COVID, so I'm definitely not as fast as I used to be. But goodness, it looked like, man, a beat up horse out there. And I feel so bad for Nick Chubb, because what a legend. But goodness. Anyway, I all that to say, I lean Kyle Malone guy. Sufo, appreciate you. You said Harrison Jr. Calvin Ridley is my wide receiver 2.5 PPR. Congrats on the newborn. Appreciate you, Sufo. Appreciate it. And Sufo, you should definitely come check out. Like I said, if you guys are over on the X and you guys haven't checked out the new 4for4 YouTube page with me, Addison, and John Paulson, definitely come check us out. We're on the way to 2,000 subscribers, putting out all types of content. So if you guys want your question answered, and we're not streaming, 100% come put it in the comments. Me and Addison are answering these bad boys all the time. Okay. But to answer your question, I would still go with Harrison Jr. They need to get him more targets. I think the whole discussion this week has been, how do we get Marvin Harrison Jr. more targets? I don't know what the answer is, because clearly Kyler Murray can't see over the offensive line and throw it to him. Now, I'm not putting all the blame on Kyler, not putting all the blame on Marv. I really think the true person to put the blame on is Drew Pesnick, the offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. But I still have Marvin Harrison as a top 20 wide receiver this week. So I would put him over Calvin Ridley this week, Sufo. I'd roll with Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr. Jur said, y'all get your questions in before I finish my ice cream and start rifling questions. LOL. Okay, Jurs. Let him know. Seawolf said, standard, JCM, Henderson, or Dunze in the flex. I would go with Rome or Romo Dunze here in the flex. Like I said, I just don't think Henderson, until we see him get a full workload, until we see Henderson get more than 8 touches. If he gets only 8 touches, it's not going to be enough for you. Unless he absolutely scores a touchdown, which we're not seeing him get that touchdown roll. Yeah, it's tough. Appreciate you, Adam. Appreciate you. Really Nelson said, Ridley or T. Higgins this week? Really Nelson, I would go with T. Higgins, even though I have pushed T. Higgins down my rankings. Like I said, push T. Higgins all the way down. Right now, he's my wide receiver 22. Calvin Ridley is just a little bit lower. It's hard for me to push Calvin Ridley any higher when we just haven't seen this Tennessee Titans offense really get humming. And so, as much as Jake Browning isn't ideal, we've seen both him and Jamar, it was a bump down, but they still produced for fantasy football. So I'm still starting him, but just kind of being a little bit more realistic with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase's expectations. And then really Nelson said JCM, Pacheco, or Chubb in that RB2 spot. Well, I don't know if you just heard me go on my little kind of rant about Nick Chubb here, but I think I lean Pacheco out of all these options. I'd love to push. It's close between Pacheco and JCM. I feel like if we knew that JCM was going to get majority of the snap share, then we'd be cool with it. He got the opportunity, but like we said, he still only had a 22% snap share in that week 2 game. Whereas if we're talking about Pacheco and his overall snap share numbers, in week 2, he was on the field 58%. So I feel like, yes, Pacheco's only rushed for 25 and 22 yards. It hasn't been great. Neither of these guys have been great, honestly, or really Nelson. But I do lean Pacheco just in the hopes that maybe he scores a touchdown. That's kind of where I'm kind of leaning there. Matt said, I didn't know about Purdy stuff. I picked up Mac because I dropped McCarthy. Would you recommend Penix or Mac Jones overall, or just pick up Penix if Purdy is playing? I mean, yeah, if Purdy's playing, then you're clearly going to go with Michael Penix. I think a lot of people are freaking out about Michael Penix after him going against Minnesota. But if anybody watched the game, you saw that they were not able to even like hike the ball without being in a silent count. And so that was really messing up the offensive line. He's definitely gotten pushed down my rest of the season rankings, but I do think there's a good chance that we could be talking about Michael Penix being somewhere in that like top 17, top 18 fantasy football quarterback producer. So especially, but I will say I do have JJ McCarthy still higher than Michael Penix rest of the season. So like Matt, if depends on how soon you're going to need that backup quarterback. But personally for me, I would go see if you need a quarterback this week, then like cool, get Michael Penix. Ben, so I subscribe to the website. Just wondering, are those your rankings or whose are they? Yeah, Ben, appreciate you tuning in. No, these are my rankings. If you want to, of course, if you're subscribed to the site, then you do get all the site rankings. You do get the amazing John Paulson rankings. So yes, these are my personal rankings that I'm going on. Like I said, if you guys want a ton more ranking, if you want a ton more tools, check out the 4for4 website, 4for4.com. Use code YouTube, gets you 25% off the plan. It's actually amazing. There's like start sit tools. There's projections. There's a ton of like other resources too for like specifically like betting and stuff like that. So if you guys are interested in checking any of that out, go on the site. But yeah, Ben, I do these start sit streams. And I use my own rankings. Like I said, they're not tried and true like good old John Paulson. But if you ever want to kind of debate like, hey, what did Caleb say in a stream versus what John Paulson said in a stream or said on his rankings, like I probably lean with John Paulson's too. But I'm definitely not trying to just take credit for all of John's work. So you can find that all on the site. C said standard Hawk or Ertz. Oh, C. I think I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Hawk in standard. I'm going to go with Hawk in standard. And then Njoku C is who I'd go with in standard. And then Ben said, would you do JSN for DJ Moore and Rice? I get JSN. Yes. As much as like, I know it's half PPR and I know Rice, we're about to enter week 3, but you still get 3 weeks of JSN before Rice comes back. And those 3 weeks can be pretty make or break it, depending on your circumstance. So I would personally go with JSN there, Ben. Adam A123, appreciate you guys. Like I said, guys, if you guys are new to the channel, absolutely appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe button. If you're on the X channel and want to come over and check out the YouTube channel, definitely come check it out. Like I said, we're live every Wednesday night at 8, and we're posting videos. We post a video Tuesday. We posted a video today. We went live. We got Friday content. We got Saturday content. We're here to answer all your questions here this season. So appreciate you guys. And especially if you're subscribed to the site, I want to make sure you get all this extra content as well. Okay. But Adam says 10-man full PPR, flex Sutton, Myers, JMO, or Moore this week. I know I just bashed on him earlier, but with these options, I will be leaning into Cortland Sutton because he's the only wide receiver that I have as a top 20 play out of these options. I understand Bo Nix hasn't necessarily looked Cortland Sutton's way. It's been a super quiet season. I mean, week 1, 15.1 fantasy points in full PPR wasn't bad, but then only 1 fantasy point in full PPR last week. Had only 4 targets. Wasn't great. His snap share was down a little bit last week. So we'll kind of have to see what he does with this Chargers team, especially if the Chargers are throwing the ball, being this top 3 passing offense, which is crazy to say because no one would have thought that when we were talking about the Chargers team. I just think the Broncos are going to have to throw to stay in this game. So I lean with Cortland Sutton. C said standard, Kelsey or McBride. I go with McBride there, C. Jura said, all right, Caleb, I got some new additions. I'm 1-1 now. Okay, here we go. Jura's got done eating his cereal. It's over. He said 12-team PPR quarterback, Herbert, Achane, Hubbard, Jordan Mason, Judkins, Brian Robinson, Mixon, Bannon. How we looking? And you said BTJ and Evans selling me. Yeah, I mean, honestly, what? So Herbert, we're looking like we got a top 7, top 6 QB rest of the season. We didn't have to draft him that way. Dub. We need the Miami Dolphins team, to turn around for Devon to really hit a ceiling. Dub, you got Judkins, who's going to continue to grow as the season progresses. I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about him having a 55 to 60% snap share this week. Got Hubbard. Like we said, this Carolina Panthers team is struggling. If they get into the game scripts where they have to throw the ball in the second half, it's not necessarily conducive to Chuba Hubbard and his overall fantasy football value. But I do like Chuba Hubbard. Jordan Mason, we got some great depth, especially as Aaron Jones is getting older and dealing with that injury. Now, comes down to our wide receivers were lacking because BTJ struggling. He's getting the target share, just not catching the ball. I know this guy is not, not associated with 4 for 4, but Matt Harmon just put out a really great video today talking about Brian Thomas Jr. He runs reception perception. I mean, he's on Yahoo fantasy football, but also does reception perception, and put out a really, really great video about BTJ. And I think if you're concerned about BTJ, definitely go check that out because he talked about specifically from the way that he charted it, that half of it he would blame Trevor Lawrence and half of it he would blame BTJ. So that's something to keep in mind. Mike Evans, like we said too, I was hoping for a bigger game versus Houston. He's separating though. Hayden Winks over, who's very, very popular over at Underdog, kind of talked about this week that Mike Evans and Devontae Adams, even though they're older, they're still separating at an elite clip. So I don't know necessarily where that production has fallen off from Mike Evans. And then D. Smithy with the same thing that A.J. Brown's battling, just lack of targets. I was really excited to see Devontae Smith without Dallas Goedert. But I mean, if you're not passing the ball more than 22 times a game, it's going to be really hard for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to have any sort of value. And then Fannin, I think Evan Ingram at this point, Jurge could be dropped just because we haven't seen anything from him so far. So honestly, I understand. Yeah, I do think you're getting sold out, but I would also say to just be patient. It's only been 2 weeks. Let's readjust and rediscuss this team at that 4-week mark. Then Eddie said, also, would you risk starting Hampton over Xavier Worthy? Ooh, let me pull up the flex rankings because Hampton's been bad. He's getting some of the volume, but it hasn't been what we'd want. Like I said, we'd have to also continue to monitor and make sure that Worthy is going to play. That decision might be made for you, or you might hear that he's on a snap count. At this current moment, Eddie, I do lean Hampton over Xavier Worthy, but it is close. It is close. Jer said BTJ and yeah, I imagine. Yeah, so I would say you're probably looking at yourself like it's a B team. Hopefully we can get you out of the rut. 1-1's not bad. I'm glad you got 1 win with this team. Sure. It could be worse. We just got to hope things continue to pick up kind of rest of the way. Jonathan said, pick one, Wandell, Pickens, or Sutton PPR, 1 point for first downs. I do lean Cortland Sutton this week, Jonathan, as much as I went and picked up Wandell everywhere. He's on a hot streak. He's getting a ton of targets. Pickens too looked really good this last week with good old Dak Prescott for the Cowboys. I have Cortland Sutton the highest in my rankings this week. Not that Chicago, there's anything majorly to worry about. I know this is a pretty favorable matchup for George Pickens, and especially coming up off that 17.8 full PPR game where he had 9 targets. The thing is, Jonathan, Pickens is going to be so boom or bust, where like his floor is probably 5 fantasy points, and his ceiling on a given week could be 25. It just doesn't feel like there's a super, super safe floor. And I know there's not genuinely a safe floor for like any fantasy football player, but I do think like Cortland Sutton, just the volume that he's going to get in this Chargers game makes me lean Sutton. And then Wandell, I think I'm glad you have him. I think honestly, if Wandell scores the most points here, it wouldn't surprise me, but I do lean the Cortland Sutton there with your options there, Jonathan. Brendan said Tyreek, Travis Etienne, Debo, or Brees in the flex. Full PPR. Brendan, goodness gracious, dude. Too many good options. I do lean Travis Etienne this week in the flex in full PPR. But like we said, could the Miami Dolphins offense turn around? Could Tyrod Taylor lead the Jets and absolutely force feed the ball to Brees? Of course. Hey, y'all, don't forget to like and subscribe. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Yeah, if you guys are there's 8 people currently watching on the YouTube. There's 407 people tuning in over on the X. So like I said, if you guys are over on X, definitely come check out the 4for4 Fantasy Football YouTube channel. This is brand new. If you're subscribed to one of the old channels, we started a new channel. Main reason we started a new channel is we kind of just wanted all of the content consolidated. So there's a 4for4 live channel and there's a 4for4 fantasy football channel. So definitely come check out the 4for4 fantasy football channel if you haven't already. Like I said, John Paulson and Addison are doing a podcast every week that comes out on Friday. There's a trade video, there's a stash video, there's a waiver wire video, plus there's streams. So if you want to get your questions answered, make sure you come over and check out the YouTube channel. Okay. Anyway, thanks, Brandon, for that. Oh, really, Nelson said, thanks for the help, boss. Appreciate you, dude. Thanks for tuning in. Jer said, glad I sniffed out an Aaron Jones injury and scooped up Mason on the low 2 weeks ago. See, that's the thing, dude. If you're able to get some of these stashes ahead of time, it 100% helps out the rest of your team when those times come. Because I had Jordan Mason was like available like in the 11th round of one of my leagues, and I drafted a ton of like backup running backs. And sometimes all it takes is for you to draft the right backup running back for everything to hit. C said, standard need a stud wide receiver for bench. Franklin Jennings, Wandell, Ridley, DJ Moore, Waddle. Need a stud wide receiver for bench. Like, these guys are all on the open market right now. Yeah, I mean, see, I would lean. Oh man, I don't want to say any of these guys are studs, because I feel like these are all like some of these guys, especially like if we're talking like Waddle or DJ Moore, we're talking about them as kind of mid wide receiver twos rest of season. Man, am I crazy to want to say? The answer is probably going to be Ridley, but the Chris Olave target share has been kind of crazy. I know it hasn't necessarily, he's only put up 8 fantasy points, but he's gotten 13 and 10 targets each of the last 2 games. And so from a target production standpoint, the answer is definitely going to be Wandell, or it's going to be Olave for getting the opportunity. But then it comes down to, though, like Ridley is the clear one for the Titans, but this is also Cam Morton, this passing attack, kind of struggling. So for me, I personally, if I had to like put my money on it, I would probably just say like we're going to go complete 180, and we're probably going to go Jawan Jennings would probably be the answer, just because we got George Kittle out. If Brock Purdy can come back, then this is going to be the Jawan Jennings show. But I would say Jawan Jennings or Olave would be the 2 ways that I would go there. See, Adam, appreciate you. You said 10-man full PPR, had Burrow, picked up Love as my QB with Purdy at my IR. Purdy plays. What's the better play this week? Yeah, just for this, I'm probably still leaning with Jordan Love. As much as the matchup versus Cleveland it's a pretty fair matchup, it's hard for me to push Brock Purdy, especially coming off that injury, any higher. I'm glad you have him, because I do think Brock Purdy is definitely going to show some people. I think a lot of people already kind of write him off after the beginning of the season. But personally, for me, I would go with Jordan Love. I think he's a little bit better to play this week. 4KT Owen said flex James Conner, Abuka, or Mike Evans. Worried about Sauce. I mean, yeah, and Sauce is going to be following good old Mikey Mike all around the field. But I think people are probably, I mean, if you're 4K, this is probably what's going to happen. Like, if you talk to other people, they probably have Mike Evans ranked higher just because he's like the X and the 1. I do lean with Abuka here. In a league 4K, I do have Emeka Abuka starting over James Conner. So it's between Mike Evans and Emeka, and I do lean with Emeka. But 4K, this is the thing that you have to kind of put into consideration is, like we said, we got to monitor that Emeka Abuka injury. If we start hearing words that, hey, you might be on a snap count, something like that, good news is you got the other guy in the matchup. You can pivot to Mike Evans. But I do lean with Emeka Abuka this week, 4KT. Appreciate you tuning in. Jer said, I have the Packers defense and I don't want to play Fannin, and I agree on dropping Ingram. How do you feel about dropping Ingram for Sanders from Carolina just for the week? Probably. Yeah. I mean, I think this is the thing, Jers. If we're talking like who, I'm still playing Fannin over Sanders. So like, I don't feel like you need to add a tight end 2 on your team. I feel like you could, if you have the flexibility, you could pick up another position, maybe another stash just on your team, whether it's another running back, whether it's another wide receiver that you can kind of lock and load. for the coming week. Adam said, also have Chuba, Bucky, Chase, BTJ, and Flexing Sutton. Have Myers, Moore, Scadaboo, Stevenson, Charb, Jano. Any recommendations also have? No, I like how you have your starting lineup set up, dude. I think you're good to go. Yeah, I'm starting Chuba. I'm starting Bucky, Chase, BTJ. As much as like we said, we're a little bit worried about it. Like I said, I'm not super worried about. I'm hoping the target share is there. We just need to see that the kind of the rest of the line start to kind of follow in there. And I think you're good to go with your overall lineups. John, appreciate you. You said team is Kyler, Bucky, Connor, CD, Tyreek, Laporta, Chuba with Ricky and Debo on the bench. Trade Kyler, Chuba, and Ricky for Josh Allen, or is that too much? John, so let's just go into it. If this is 6-point passing touchdown, I feel a lot better about this trade. If it's only 4, it's not bad. But I do think you're gonna feel a lot better about your floor if you had Josh Allen. I would see if you can get a piece back. Like, can you get a lower end stash running back? I think with your team, you're feeling pretty good about where you're at. I just you kind of slash your depth to get a stud at quarterback, John. And so for me, there's going to probably be people that are telling you not to do it. I personally would do it. I would just see if you can maybe get a little bit more spice on the Josh Allen side when it comes to, can I get a running back like a, I mean, you're not going to get a good running back. Like we said, can we get like if we scroll down, could we get a Dylan Sampson type? Could I get someone's low if he has RJ Harvey, Rashad White, Trey Benson, Tootin, that sort of guy? Could I get that thrown in on the Josh Allen side and see if that deal could go through? But John, I would do it. Jer said, would you start Io Man? I always botch how to say his name, even though I did all of the stuff during Dynasty with it over Smitty in the flex. Oh my gosh. Freaking Devontae Smith, dude. You're not even going to, I have him so many places. I just feel like from my own standpoint, I'm just going to continue to throw Smitty out there because the talent's there. I mean, I have Alec all the way down, like down as my wide receiver for 53 this week. And I still have Smitty as a top 30 wide receiver. Now, is that bananas? Probably is, because Smitty, like I said, this passing attack, not being able to throw more than 30 times a game is definitely hurting Smitty. But I do lean with Smitty over AO Manor. Sure, so I got screwed every year at the time. Yeah, dude, I got screwed this year. Don't even get me started. Am said, would you trade Chuba for Kyron? Yes. I think people are making a big deal about it. The Blake Corum getting more carries. Do I agree that there's a little bit of worry when it comes to the fact that he's just been so dominant with the snap share, that he hasn't been super efficient with touchdowns and that kind of stuff? Sure. I think Kyron's probably still going to end up with like a 65 to 68% snap share. And if he's getting that, I mean, he's not an RB5. He's not a top, probably not even a top 10 guy, but he's a top 15 guy. And I think Chuba is more like a top 20 guy. And so for me, I would still go try to take Kyron Williams there, Adam. I think this might be a good time with all the news. Will said Josh Allen has a broken nose or just proved he going to play. Yeah, dude. I mean, he came back in the game last week. So personally, yeah, I think he's playing this week. I haven't seen anything that he's not versus Miami. This is a crazy matchup, dude. Roll out some Josh Allen. Roll him out. Ooh, we're starting to lag there a little bit. Lag spike. Apologies. Jer said, I say that because Fanning is going against the Packers this week. Yeah, but they're going to have to throw the ball, Jers. They're going to have to throw the ball. Joe Flacco ain't going to have time to throw the ball. And so who does that benefit? Most of the time, it benefits your tight end position. So I would 100% be going and trying to get I would just start Harold Fanning. That's he said, keep Daniel Jones or Purdy as backup quarterback in standard. Ooh. I mean, dude, I think I lean Brock Purdy. But, dude, do you have to make that decision, like, right now? Because there's a chance you could keep him in IR this week. I mean, dude, Daniel Jones is cooking. So, like, I feel like you don't wanna give him up. He's the hot hand. So personally for me, I would go, I would keep Daniel Jones at this point, especially if he's your backup. The Smitty said, "Trade Nico for Tetaroa and Javonte Williams." Yeah, I'm cool to do that. The tier down and full PPR doesn't feel great. 'Cause you're tearing down from, like, my wide receiver 8 to, like, wide receiver 16, so, like, almost 8 spots. But especially if you need some running back help, I mean, Javonte is a top 20 running back rest of the season for me at this point. So, I think if you need the depth there for your overall team to benefit, I think you go with the Javonte and Tetaroa McMillan side. Oh, appreciate you, this Smitty. Travis said, "I'm giving Brian Thomas one more week to get together." Travis, I agree with it. Now, I will say this. If we give Brian Thomas Jr. one more week and he absolutely poops the bed, his value is going to go tanking. His value is going to be like somewhere in that wide receiver, 18 to wide receiver, probably 26 range. Like, it's going to kind of cliff and fall off. But I'm willing to take the risk, Travis. I'm taking the risk with you. I drafted Brian Thomas Jr. at the end of the first everywhere. Maybe it's just me praying that he turns around my 1-1 team. I have one team that's 0-2 that has Brian Thomas Jr. And I directly think it's his fault. We're hoping that it turns it around. Brendan said, "Would you trade AJ Brown and Tracy for McMillan and Swift?" I would not, Brendan. I would personally be holding AJ Brown. I don't think Tet is enough for me to get off of AJ Brown, because I think Swift and Tracy are kind of close. I actually think I prefer Swift, but I think the upside, Brendan, is going to be on the AJ Brown side. And you said you have AJ Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett and Becca, running backs for ETM, Bucky, Chase B, Algier. Yeah, dude, if you have that sort of team, Brendan, then I'm just holding, because you got the running back depth. You don't really need Swift. And honestly, McMillan, they're probably performing about the same, but like rest of the season, if AJ Brown hits, you're going to want AJ Brown. C said, "Standard, sit one, BTJ, London, or Jennings." Oh my gosh. See, I'd sit Jennings. Oh my gosh. That's me putting my faith in Brian Thomas Jr. and the crappy first 2 weeks that he had. See, don't blame me if I get you wrong on that one, but I would go with London and BTJ. Fannin or Henry this week. I would still be going with good old Harold Fannin. It's a good matchup. It's a good matchup for Hunter Henry going up against the Dolphins. But I do want a piece. I do want a piece of Mr. Fannin over. Did I say he's going up against Miami Dolphins? Sorry, Pittsburgh Steelers. Apologies for Hunter Henry. But I do want Harold Fannin, even if they are going up against this really, really hard Green Bay Packers defense. Thank you, Brandon, for your question. Adam said, Chuba or Kamara. I'm assuming this is like for this week. Like, is this a start sit question or just like a rest of season? Because if it's like a this week question, I do want Alvin Kamara over Chuba. But if we're talking rest of season, I think I'm still leaning Alvin Kamara in both of those, Adam. So I would go with Alvin Kamara this week. And then the Smitty said, "Start 2 QBs, Browning, Rattler, Mac Jones." The Smitty, I would go with Browning and Mac Jones. Not that I don't trust myself some Spencer Rattler, but I don't trust myself some Spencer Rattler versus Seattle. I think if you need a defense this week, like if you're playing in a defensive league, it'd be a really smart idea to go see if you can go stream the Seattle Seahawks defense, because that's what I'm doing in all of my leagues. Adam said, "I bought BTJ for Chase Brown. What's your prediction on BTJ this week?" I bought BTJ for Chase Brown. Dude, I mean, listen, that is what we like to call a little bit of a ballsy move there. A little bit of a ballsy move. I understand Chase Brown probably gets a little bit more volume with Joey B out. Now is it more efficient? It's not going to be more efficient. Brian Thomas versus Houston. Oh man, dude. I have him projected right now for 14.7 fantasy points. Like I said, projections are that. But I would say that the bust potential on BTJ is very, very high. So, but I'm glad that you bought him because I'm actually in discussions with a guy in one of my leagues. I'm trying to trade away Devontae Adams for Brian Thomas Jr. So like I am fully invested in Brian Thomas Jr. I think that the way that the Jacksonville Jaguars offense, where they're not able to get the ball to Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, your two main playmakers. Now it's been great for Travis Etienne. Cool. I think they're going to get that fixed at some point. And so I do want to be in on Brian Thomas Jr. there. And then Dynasty Psych. Okay, I gotta say this. Give this man a shout out. This guy's grinding the TikToks all the time. All the time. So if you want some good start sit advice, you could definitely go check out the Dynasty Psych on TikTok. He also has a YouTube, but I'll say this, like, I swear, I like log on to TikTok, I start scrolling, and then there on my live is Dynasty Psych. So with AJ and Smitty at this point, you just want to be able to say, hey, I started a very talented wide receiver I overdrafted, and he almost got me 21 week. Pain to watch the fantasy erosion as a Birds fan. Yeah, dude, that's where I feel like so I got one league, and you're gonna laugh at this. This league that I was talking about trying to trade Devontae Adams for Brian Thomas Jr. I really like. I'll go through my draft. So it's a league where you start one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receiver, and two flex. Like you don't have to start a tight end. So I drafted I had picked 6. So I drafted CeeDee Lamb, Drake London fell to me in the second, and then this is what kills me. I had a late second round grade on Brock Bowers, even in a flex, and he fell back to me in the third. But I chose Brock Bowers over JSN. Yeah, terrible. That happened. But then in the fourth round, I ended up taking Trevion Henderson because I was a big Trevion guy. And then Devontae Adams fell to me in the 5th, which is great. And then in the 6th, I was like, I need to get another running back. But then Devontae Smith is sitting there in the middle of the 6th. I'm like, yo, like, let me get some Devontae Smith. I know he's not necessarily going to be a starter every week, but like, let me grab some Devontae Smith. And I probably should have gone with running back, reached on a guy, gone with a better quarterback. Like, I don't know. Like Devontae Smith has been it. And I think it comes down to if the Birds are going to be, if your Philadelphia Eagles are going to be content to throw Saquon out there to have a top 2 rushing attempt team and to be, bottom half of the league, even bottom 5 in the league in passing attempts. I just don't know how long AJ Brown is going to be quiet, even if they're winning, if he's not getting the ball. But I don't know how that impacts Devontae Smith because even seeing Dallas Goedert last week missing and Devontae Smith not producing any fantasy football value. Yeah. You're almost like if you start him and you're waiting to see when's that bump going to happen. But I'm 100% with it's a pain. It's an absolute pain. Lee Smitty said start 2 running backs, Montgomery, Henderson, or Connors. Lee Smitty, I'm not starting Trevion Henderson this week. So I would be going with Montgomery and James Conner. And yeah, thanks, Smitty. I'm looking at my sheet and my rankings, and it just is. I confused myself. I confused myself with what I saw. Caden said Marv Judkins or Krosky Merritt at flex. Caden, I would be going with Marv here. I do have Judkins ahead of Krosky Merritt this week, though. So if I had to rank them, it would be Marv, Judkins, or Krosky Merritt. Now, Caden, I don't know if this is full PPR. I'm assuming this is full PPR. So that's kind of where I'm doing this. C said standard start 2 London, Tyreek, Garrett Wilson, or Adunze. C, I would be going with good old Drizzy, Drake London this week. And then, oh man, I think you got to go Garrett Wilson. It's between Garrett Wilson and Rome Odunze for me, but I go with G Willie. I think they're going to have to target him. And we saw last week, as much as we kind of bashed on like Justin Fields, the 9 fantasy points that Garrett Wilson put up in full PPR, that kind of happened with Tyrod Taylor. So I believe that even still, he should get somewhere between that 8 to 10 target range. And hopefully he puts up, like we said, like 15 fantasy points for you. Frizz, dude, I haven't seen you in so long. Yo, it's going good, bro. It's going good. Glad you found me here streaming again, dude. So, bro, good to see you, dude. Ask me any start sit questions. Like I said, guys, if you guys are tuning in, this is we're putting out content, me, Addison, and John Paulson. So if you guys want content weekly and you're over on the X, because right now over on the X, we have 506 people tuned into this. I don't know if that how true that is. We got 9 people on the YouTube. But if you want to come for a better viewing experience / want to see a ton more free content, definitely check this out. As well as if you want to check out a ton of like John Paulson's rankings, a ton of the start sit tools, come over on the 4for4.com website. If you use code YouTube, it actually gets you 25% off of a plan. I've been using it, and I'll say this as somebody that hasn't really used a ton of like fantasy football tools before. Like week 1, I was debating Nick Chubb versus Travis Etienne in a league. I texted all my buddies that I trust. They all gave me 50-50 answers, put it into the 4for4 tool, told me to start Travis Etienne, and boom, here I am, happy as a clam. Anyway, Frizz, good to see you. The Smitty said, I'm streaming Atlanta. Should I get Seattle? The Smitty, they're literally back to back for me. So definitely I like Seattle. I like Atlanta. I like both. The only thing with Atlanta is we don't know if their cornerback, oh my gosh, his name's going to escape me at this moment, if he's going to play, because he got injured last week. And I like the pass rush. Oh, Terrell, for AJ Terrell. We don't know if he's going to play this week. And so I just like the pass rush a little bit better for the Seattle Seahawks, but that's all conducive. Adam said the full trade was I'm getting BTJ and Genty. He got Laporta and Brown. The full trade, I'm getting BTJ and Genty. Yeah, if you're doing that, yeah, get yourself some BTJ and Genty. Man, dude, absolutely fleeced. And then you said Kyron or Kamara rest of the season. Ooh, Adam, you're like holding a gun to my head, asking me questions about who I should. Oh gosh, I mean, I think I lean Kyron still, just because I believe in this Rams offense more than I believe in the Saints offense. So I personally would go with Kyron rest of the season there, Adam. And then Frizz said, Kyron and Trayvon on my running backs. I'm scared. Might try to trade for an upgrade. Frizz, I would be scared. Frizz, let me know who your backup running backs are. There's a chance that I might start one of them over Trevion. I got in a league, I have Travis Etienne and Trevion as my 2 running backs. Yes, this is scary hours. I thought it was going to be fine. I'm not fine. Not fine. And so personally for me, I would try to find another option this week. Ben said, if you're trying to trade DJ Moore and Rashee Rice, who would you want to be getting in return? Well, dude, I think you're going to be selling low on Rashee Rice right now. Honestly, dude, I'd probably just hold. But I mean, if I can, I'm only trading Rashee Rice and DJ Moore if I can get like a Ladd McConkey, a Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. And I don't think you're going to be able to get that. Like most people are going to say no. And I think the moment Rashee Rice comes back, we're talking about Rashee Rice being a top 12 fantasy football wide receiver rest of the season. So I personally, if you can hold out, if your team can make it until the Rashee Rice resurgence, dude, I think you got a shot at the chip. That's my hot take. And then Dynasty said that JSN pass plus to be brutal to swallow as an OSU guy. Hindsight's 2020 though. It's a brutal, uncomfortable time of the year too. 2 weeks in, all we have to go off. But it's just, yeah. And I think this is my thing. So Dynasty, I don't know if you were looking at like I'm sure you watched the Monday night game. But my thing is like Brock Bowers, the way that they are using him, it's just ridiculous. It's just, yeah, Colin, it's crazy when we're talking about not only Brock Bowers being hurt, but the way that Geno Smith is not targeting Brock Bowers to the extent that you would think. Now the JSN volume's been crazy, and maybe I should have leaned that way, but I just think for me, I was just like, man, Brock Bowers, I still have him as a generational tight end prospect. Even being hurt though, like it hasn't been the end of the world. But it also hasn't been super pleasant, only getting 12.8, 6.3 last week. I just think they have to get him running. And I just hope he can get healthy enough. But yeah, Dynasty, I would 100% be feeling way better about myself if I did have JSN. But we try to diversify. I have plenty of JSN shares, but especially in Dynasty. Kane said, different league, half PPR, Judkins or Ridley at flex. Caden, I would go with Quinshon Judkins this week. Frizz said, my backup running backs are Woody Marks and Kyle Malungai. It's bad. Oh. Yeah, Frizz, I'm probably rolling out Trevion Henderson. As much as I think that Kyle Malungai might get the same amount of touches as Trevion, but I would go with Trevion. Jur said, is Hubbard still a start this week? Yes. Yes. Let me get you what I have. So Chuba this week, he's a top 24 running back. So I would go, he is. I'd start him. I wish I had Chuba on a few rosters where I have Trevon Henderson. Goodness. Jers says might throw Mason at RB2 and put Smitty and AMR. Hey, you could do that. You could do that, Jers. I forget who. I'm scrolling back up to your team. I actually don't remember your team. Oh, here we are. I'm going back up to him. You said might put Smitty and AMR. I mean, I'm probably still rolling with Jordan Mason and Judkins in your flex spots, dude. Honestly, I probably wouldn't roll. I'd put Quinshawn over them, and then I'd also put Jordan Mason for sure over them. Ben said, I think I might have asked this, but I got offered DJ Moore and Rashee Rice for JSN. Oh, so you already have JSN. No, I'm holding JSN there, Ben. Or you get JSN. I would, if I can get JSN, I get JSN. Especially in a keeper. Good question, Ben. Good question. South said, would you start Tyreek or JMO this week? South, I will continue to be hurt by Tyreek Hill. So I would go with Tyreek Hill this week as my option. And guys, we are getting to that point of the night where I will put us at the 5-minute bell. So if you have any final start sit questions, put those questions in the chat, and we'll rapid fire through these. Appreciate everyone for tuning in tonight. I'm crazy we didn't have football tonight, but we get football tomorrow. So excited about that. Frizz said Swift had limited practice day, so I'm thinking DeAndre Swift is playing this week, Frizz. If for some reason DeAndre Swift is not, like I said, I know I'm answering this question for you on a Wednesday, then for sure you're playing. You're playing Kyle. That's the case. And then you said might send away 10 McMillan to go grab it, ETN or Jordan Mason, anything at this point. Yeah, dude. If I would try to do ETN, I think Jordan Mason's a little too low when it comes to good old Teteroa, especially as we continue to see Teteroa just good old. I always call them Tet, so it's crazy. Could you go get like the players that I think you might be able to get, especially even after this week, like a Chase Brown, a Brees Hall, a Kyron Williams, like those type of running backs. I like ETN too. You maybe could, go get an ETN, but those would kind of be the range, Frizz, that I would try to target if I were you. Then Adam says, would you do Jacobs and JSN for Jamar Chase? Adam, I would not. Not at this current moment. Not with, I know people are going to tell you to go pay up for Jamar Chase, but I think for looking at Jamar Chase, being honest, like rest of season, I don't know how people still have him as their wide receiver one. I have CD Lamb as my wide receiver one rest of the season. I think you're taking, at this point, you're probably taking Malik Neighbors, Puka Nakua, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And so right now I think Jamar Chase is probably sliding in the rest of the season as my wide receiver 6. And then JSN is like wide receiver 10. So you're essentially getting like a free, like Josh Jacobs. Not like a free, but like it's a good deal, Adam. So I would do Josh Jacobs. I would want Jacobs and JSN on my team. I wouldn't want to overpay for Jamar Chase. Bertinelli 203. Great stream. Appreciate you, dude. Thanks for tuning in 2003. I'm pondering between Kamara and Walker this week. Both nice matchups. They are both really good matchups. And after what we saw last week from Ken Walker, I feel like a lot more people are excited to kind of rev him up. Now, it's a great matchup versus New Orleans. I agree with you. My only hesitation with Ken Walker is we saw him last week get, the production with 18.8 fantasy points in full PPR. But the snap share still wasn't, it was still a pretty even snap share between Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Now, could that change? Could Kenneth Walker continue to be the more, elite level running back? For sure. That's 100% where I'm at. But if I had to choose one, I would go with Alvin Kamara over Kenneth Walker this week. But I think you got two really great options there. As Bertinelli, I have teams that aren't. And then Colin said, of course, Vrabel reveals they rep in the 6.5 pass touch to Ramondre to Travion on practice leading up to game day. Figured it out. McDaniel. See, this is the part that, like, I understand he missed the blocks, but like, why? I don't know. First off, he did get and people don't realize this. Crazy. Also, did this trade just happen? Someone just said Anthony Richardson is now a Bengal. Is that true? Are we getting some live reaction on stream? Did the Bengals just pull off a trade for Anthony Richardson? There's no way. There's no way that my Bengals did that. Are we serious? No, I don't see anything that this just happened. So, man, you guys are trying to cause some crazy things. Man. Okay. I didn't see an Adam Schefter tweet. Philly, leave me alone, bro. Leave me alone. That would have made my day. You said just post it on X. I mean, I just looked. I don't see it unless I'm missing something. But man, would that have been crazy? But also getting back to Bertinelli, also Zach Charbonnet wasn't practicing today. So monitor this at this current moment, Kamara. But if Zach Charbonnet is going to be out this week, Bertinelli, I go Walker. But Colin, back to this. It really upsetted me that so first of all, Trevion Henderson got engaged last week. So maybe he wasn't in the proper headspace this week. But yeah, I just like why do you take a running back in the early part of the second to just not get them involved? Now I understand Ramondre definitely deserves his. Like, I'm not being dumb to that. But the fact that Antonio Gibson out snapped Trevion Henderson last week, absolute ridiculous. Crazy hour. Crazy hour. Jur said Ibuka needs to get traded, taking touches away from or Jurs. Emek is the true one, and Mike Evans is just getting old. He's not washed, but he's just getting old. Ben said I traded J.K. Dobbins for Calvin Ridley because I have James Conner, David Montgomery, and Bijan. Do you think that's a good trade? Yeah, I think R.J. Harvey's going to take more of that J.K. Dobbins touches. So I think Calvin Ridley definitely the rest of the season could be in a better spot. Yeah, Adam, I would take JSN and Jacobs for sure if you're trading away. And Philly, what the heck, bro? You just for 2 seconds and 2/3, bro. They better if they're getting Anthony Richardson, trade like a fifth. But it's also bad for Anthony Richardson if that was the case because he wouldn't actually get his. Yeah, thanks Al for jumping in here. And then we got Chef and Bonnie. Appreciate you, dude. Thanks for tuning in. You said trade, dude. Chef, I don't think I've seen you. Glad. Thank you for finding the channel, dude. Like I said, guys, we are up to 8 viewers here on the YouTube. Like I said, if you're not over on the X, definitely come check out the 444 Fantasy Football YouTube channel. We started a brand new channel this year. Me, John Paulson, and Addison. A ton of content each and every day, helping you guys win your fantasy football leagues in 2025. So Chef says trade Henry in London for Jamar Chase and Devon Achane. Oh, good Lord. So Jamar Chase in London is kind of fit. Like it's like a straight kind of swap there for me. Because I do have them back to back in my rest of the season rankings. So it really comes down to who do you prefer at running back between Henry and Achane. At this current moment, if I'm assuming this is full PPR, I do lean Devon. So I do want that Jamar Chase and Devon side, Chef. But it's a pretty fair deal down the noggin. Like I said, Jake London is getting the targets. At this point, we're assuming Michael Penix Jr. is a little bit better than Jake Browning, but Jamar Chase is also the best wide receiver in football, even if he doesn't have the best quarterback. Jer said, I don't know if you do kickers, but Romo impressed me last week and considered on dropping Loop for him if Romo keeps the job. Yeah, so I dove, Jers, I drove deep into kickers this last week. I actually picked up Spencer Schrader everywhere. Because I just think you continue to ride the hot hand. They are going up against the Tennessee Titans this week. Pretty good matchup for good old Spencer. I think Tyler Loop's a great kicker, so I like that. But Romo, versus Carolina, this is also a really good matchup. Now, he got the 16 total points last week, so we'll have to see. I just think kickers are I'm going to promote something. So if you go to Reddit in the fantasy football channel, there's a guy, oh my gosh, just type in like week 3 kickers and his name's Sub something. And he does the most crazy in-depth kicker analysis that I've ever seen. And so, I froze there. So I'm not trying to gatekeep at all. But I would definitely go check that out. Cause that definitely helped me last week. I thought Cammy was a good play. I got Cammy Fairbairn last week. the Houston Texans offense just isn't good enough. But I do think Spencer Schrader would be a guy. Tyler Loop, I like Tyler Loop. Matt Prater's another one that are not like widely owned. Element, dude, you're totally fine. Dude, you're fine. You're totally fine, Element, but we're probably a few minutes from ending. So, dude, if you have any questions, let me know. Frizz said, would you trade away Drake London for Brees Hall and Jordan? Mason, would you trade away Drake London for Brees Hall and Jordan Mason? Frizz, I know you said you needed running backs. What is your Frizz? Type out your team, dude. I'll wait for you to type out your team. I need to know your team. I personally lean holding Drake London there, but I need to know your whole team. If you got absolutely loaded wide receivers and we could give up Jersey Drake, sure. But I'm probably still on the Jersey Drake bandwagon. Chef said running backs are Henry, Genty, K9. Oh, yeah, dude. Oh, yeah. If you got Genty and K9, and yeah, dude, bro. Yeah, take Chase, take HN. Jeff, you're in a good spot, bro. And half PPR. Yeah, dude. Ben said, thanks for the advice. You said there's a live stream every week. Yeah, Ben. We try to do it every week. I mean, if something happens to me on a Wednesday night, then or something happens to my baby, I can't promise anything. But we try to stream, Ben, every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the goal. Jers said, Spencer Schrader, Indianapolis Colts kicker, Jers. He's been absolutely insane the last 2 weeks. Man, I'm getting to the end of this water. Jers says, I was here, Element. Yeah, Element, we got you covered, bro. You're good. But ask any start questions if you have them. Quarterbacks are Murray and May. Wide receivers are Drake, CD, Ted McMillan, Keon Coleman, Matthew Golden. Tight ends. Oh, Joanne Fannin. And then Frizz, what did you who'd you say your other? You said wait. Yeah, I mean, I would think if I had to get a run, you said Kyron and Trayvon are my running backs. I mean, yeah, not terrible. I hate to make you get rid of one of these wide receivers because that seems to be a pretty big strength of your team. But yeah, if you could get like Tet would be the wide receiver that I would try to trade for to get a running back. Just off topic, but the Mets make me want to. Dude, I do not tune into any baseball, and I think I really stopped watching baseball probably 5 years ago, and the reason I stopped watching is because like then I was watching baseball and football, and it was just getting to be a lot. It's getting to be a lot. So definitely feel you though, Jers. Definitely feel you. But we are getting to that time of night. Like I said, guys, absolutely appreciate everybody for tuning in, for hanging out on this live chat. Another week. We're about to head into week 3 fantasy football. So another video is coming out, like I said, on Friday. On Saturday, my stash video is coming out. If you guys have any more start state questions, definitely ask them on the YouTube videos, as well as make sure you hit that like button. If you're over on the X and you haven't already checked out the 4for4 Fantasy Football YouTube channel, make sure you definitely come out. Check us out. We're growing this new channel with me, John Paulson, and Addison. We're on the way to almost 2,000 subscribers at this point, trying to get to 1.5 next. So want you guys here on this ride. Appreciate you guys for always tuning in, for always being encouraging. Jers, Element, Ben, Chef. It was great interacting with you guys. Like I said, if you guys have more questions, definitely ask them at a later time. But until then, we'll catch you guys all on the next one. Peace out.